All right, at this point in time, you are familiar with this process of taking our texture maps and attaching them to a shader and then applying it to our model. So let's just go right into it. Let's open up Hypershade. I'm going to clear my workspace here. Let's go to the Arnold shader tab right here, and let's put down an AI standard surface shader. All right, so this is an empty shader. Let's now attach our texture maps. We are going to do it exactly the same way that we did it with the stool and with the axe. So let's go to the base tab, color. Let's click here. I'm going to load up a file, and right here I'm going to pick what file. So let's open up our substance folder that we placed inside of our source images folder, and let's find our color map. All righty, it looks crazy, but that's okay. That's what it's supposed to look like. Here is our color map. Let's click open. It's going to take a moment. There we go. So now we have our color map attached. Let's go back to our main shader here. And right now I am just going to name it to well. M for material. Now, we did our base. Remember, we do have those metal studs, so we do need to attach a metalness map. So we're going to come here. Let's click File. And let's select our metalness map. So I'm going to go into Substance, and there's our metallic. You can see that it's only in a small portion of the UVs. That's because these are just the metal studs. Hit open. Now remember, it's important to change your color space to utility raw and check on alpha is luminance. All right, let's click our main shader again. We're done with the color map and the metalness map, so I'm going to close that. Now in the specular tab, let's do the roughness map. So let's go to the roughness here. Let's load up a file. Let's go to our substance folder, and there is our roughness texture map. Open. Color space needs to change as well from sRGB to utility raw. And alpha is luminance is toggled on. Now let's go back to our main shader here. So we did the roughness map. We can close that. All that we have left is underneath the geometry tab is our normal map. So where it says bump mapping, let's click there. Let's select a file. And where it says bump value, let's click this guy right here. And let's upload a file, substance. And in this case, it's going to be the normal OpenGL. So I'm going to hit open. Let's change the color space from sRGB to utility raw. Make sure alpha is luminance is toggled on. And one last thing, we want to come back to, let's see here, our node right here, our bump 2D1 node, because we want to change it from use as bump to use as tangent space normals. All right, so then here is our full material with the color map, the metalness map, the roughness map, and the normal map. Now, those are the most simple you can go when it comes to texture maps. So this material is ready. Let's go to our model here. And I'm just going to select the entire thing. And we are going to right-click, assign material to selection. I'm going to drop down Hypershade. Now, remember, you need to turn on your texture view. So let's come up here and click Textures. And there is our textured model. So you see we have our wood, our stone, our rope, our metal. And our entire model is now textured within Maya. So let's get to setting up our scene or lighting our scene and rendering out a final image. All right. I'm leaving this part up to you. How you want to set up your lights, how you want to position your camera, and the actual final image itself. You get complete freedom with this. I want you to use as many lights as you want, use as little lights as you want, whatever camera angles you want. It's completely up to you. I just am going to go a very simple route by using an HDRI image and trying to get a nice little camera angle, a very simple one. So I will show you how I'm going to do it. You can follow along if you want, but I really am pushing you to try to get creative with it. Try to showcase your model because it's a very good model. Try to showcase it in a very interesting way. So here's how I'm going to do it. All right. So as you can see in my source images folder in my project, I did put these two HDRI images that I downloaded from Polyhaven, which is a free HDRI website. Remember, there's hundreds of thousands of free HDRI images available that you can use to light up your scenes. So I downloaded these two, I put them in my source images folder, and I want to use them in my scene. Now, let me set up my camera here. I'm going to go to Panels, Perspective, New. And I'm looking through that new perspective, that new camera. I'm just going to rename it to Camera in the outliner. And let me position my camera how I want to view my well. I can either look at it dead on. I can maybe do it a little bit from an angle, get a little closer in, maybe around here. I can then go to View, Lock Camera, go back to Panels, Perspective, and go back to Perspective mode. So now my camera is locked in that position that I just put it in. And when I render out my image, I can render it out from the camera. So camera is set up. Let's light this scene. All right, so I'm going to go up to our menu sets and I'm going to change it from modeling to rendering. Now, let's go up to Arnold, down to lights. And before I try a sky dome light with my HDRI image, I am going to try physical sky. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to open up the Arnold render view and let's run our render view. Actually, I'm going to stop it right here. Make sure that you are rendering it from the camera. Let's try this again. Okay, so with the physical skylight, you get some lighting going on, but it's a little dark. So let's go to the outliner, select our physical sky, go to the attribute editor, and let's just bring up that intensity a little bit. That's a little better. So if I wanted to, I could render out this image, but it's a little boring. So I'm going to stop it right here. I'm going to drop down the render view and I'm going to delete this physical sky. I'm going to go up to Arnold, Lights, Sky Dome Light. And now inside of the Sky Dome Light is where we want to load up one of our HDRI maps. So I'm going to go to the color right here in the attribute editor. I'm going to select the checker box and I'm going to upload a file. Right here, so we're going to upload it. So I have two HDRI maps that I downloaded. I have this one, which is a sunset in a brown grass field, and then I have a sunset where there's green grass. I think I'm going to try this one first. So I'm going to click Open. Now it looks crazy in the viewport, but that's fine. It will look different in the render view. So I'm going to open up the render view again. And let's run it. Let's see what we're working with here. This may take a moment. So this is what it looks like rendered with that sky dome light and the HDRI map loaded into it. So it looks a little more interesting. We get this nice grassy background and a little bit more realistic lighting where you can see there's this nice sunset lighting bouncing off of our model. But it's a little busy, and I don't actually want this image in the background, so I'm going to do something else. I'm going to stop the render here, and I'm going to drop it down. With the Sky Dome light selected and inside of the attribute editor, I am going to just bring up the intensity a little bit. And let's get rid of this image from the background. Let's go down to the visibility tab, and where it says camera, let's set this all the way down to 0. So now in the render view, when we render it, that background is no longer going to be visible. The lighting information is still attached to it, but the image itself is no longer there, which is exactly what I wanted. I'm going to stop it right here. Now, it's really ugly inside of my viewport, so I am going to take the visibility off of that as well. I'm going to go to Show, Viewport, and down to Lights. I'm going to toggle that off so that we no longer see it. Now, if we go back to the render view, our model is lit up with some nice natural lighting, but it's a little boring. We just have this black background, and it would be nice to showcase a little bit of shadows and reflection. So I'm going to do something else here. We could come to our scene group and bring back the visibility of our little ground that we made here, but it's boring and I want it to have a backdrop. So I'm actually going to turn that visibility back off and I'm going to do something different. I'm going to bring down a plane and I'm going to make that bigger. Now you're going to remember this from when I showed you how to do this for the Project 4 lighting project, where we made a backdrop. So I'm going to select all of these edges. Let me just zoom in a bit here. And I'm going to select all of these edges here as well. So now I'm going to go up to, let's see, Edit Mesh Extrude. I'm just going to pull this up to right about there. Now, object mode, I am going to go and I'm going to select this middle edge right here. Let's go to Edit Mesh Bevel. We can make the fraction a little bit bigger and let's give this some more segments so it's a nice rounded beveled corner. I'm now going to select all of these edges down here on both sides and these ones as well. And I'm going to bevel these ones. So Edit Mesh Bevel. Let's give it some more segments. Bring up the fractions just so that we have these nice smooth edges. And it'll just look much better. I'm also going to rotate it a bit to right about there. And so now we have a background, a very basic background that we can have light and shadows bounce off of. So I'm going to go back to the render view and let's do this again. All right, so that's just a little more interesting. Now we don't have this model floating in a black space. It's now got a little bit of a lighter background. You can see how light is interacting with the model and the backdrop, and you can see the shadows. So this just looks better overall. So I think that this is going to be my final rendered image. Now, I am encouraging you to try out a couple of things. Maybe bring in an image plane and bring in a background. Maybe change the colors of your backdrop. Maybe bring in a couple other little models that you created, like leaves or more rocks, or it's up to you how you want to set up your scene of your final render, but this works for me. So I'm going to come up to the Arnold render settings, this guy right here, and make sure you're using the Arnold renderer. You don't want to be in the Maya renderer. Now here, I am giving it the prefix well, and image format can either be JPEG or PNG, but I'll make it JPEG. Single frame because this is an image. Make sure your renderable camera is set to camera, not perspective. So camera. And you can change the preset here to be a little bit higher quality. I think I'm going to do either 2K. That is going to make it is going to take longer to render if I set it to 2K. or I could do an HD 1080. I think I'm going to do a 2K just because I want some higher quality. And then something I do suggest doing is coming to system here and changing your CPU to GPU. It's going to run a lot faster if you have a nice high quality GPU. Okay, and I think I'm good with this. I'm going to close that. I'm going to let this finish rendering. So I need to make sure that this is 100%, and then I'm going to save my final image. All right, so it was taking a little too long for me to render out that image, so I did change it back to HD 1080. And looking over the video, my voice did cut out when I was talking about the render device. So I was saying you need to change your CPU to GPU if you want your system to run faster while rendering. So I changed it back to HD 1080. I allowed it to render out fully. That also cut out a little bit when I was recording. I was saying it needs to reach 100% down here in the bottom right corner. Once it reaches 100%, then you know that your image has fully rendered. So, image has fully rendered. I'm going to stop it right here, and I'm going to go up to File, Save Image, and make sure it's being saved into the Images folder inside of your project folder. And I'm just going to name it Well Rendered. Let's take a look at that. There is our final rendered image. So now we have a rendered image of our well, fully textured and modeled with a little bit of lighting, and it looks great. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to come up to File and Save Scene As, and I've already saved a version of it, but I do just want you to call it Well Complete so that we know that this is the fully completed well. And zip your project folder and submit it. Now, just a reminder, I do have 2 pages in Canvas for our module this week. One on HDRI maps, how they work and how you use them, and the other one is on setting up your scene for rendering. So take a look at both of those if you want a little more information on using HDRI maps and some suggestions on how to set up your scene. Other than that, you are completely finished with the well. You are finished with assignment 2. Take a nice long break.